Hi everyone, I'm Shiladitya, one of the co-founders at 1xn. So today we'll be walking you all through a project that we've just begun, an open source project. It's called VMCP. We kind of plan to build the tooling layer around LLMs, like what context needs to be provided, what are the best practices. So we started off with MCPs, and I think as Aditya had already referred, many of his problems, we face the similar problems, and we have some solutions, and we plan to build it over the course of the next few months, right? So just glossing over the basics of MCP, I think everyone is aware that MCP is kind of a standard protocol to connect your AI applications to data sources or different tools, right? So you have AI applications on one side and your data sources on the other. So roughly, these are the capabilities of the entire MCP framework. So there's an MCP specification which kinds of keep developing over the course of time, and you have the client and the server. And the server has three main primitives: tools, resources, prompts. And the transport layer, the communication between the client and server, is through either the stdout transport or the streamable HTTP transport, right? And the data layer that it uses is basically JSON RPC 2.0. As you can see in the diagram, there are certain capabilities of the MCP client too, which maybe today we don't see it in all the clients, but these are, I think, very interesting. And if these develop over the course of time, I think it can really lead to very interesting applications that we can build on top of these, right? So just few of the primitives on the client side. One is sampling. So here where the server can ask for an LLM request, and the client can actually run the request and give back the answer to the LLM, right? Then there is the tunnel of elicitation, where we can have, the client can support rendering of UI elements that the server sends to the client, right? And then there is logging capabilities that the client may also have. And just recently, I think there is a shared primitive called tasks that the specification has come out with, but we need to see how that kind of develops over the course of time. And the SDKs are available in multiple languages. So this is the entire MCP kind of framework that is available to us. And we are aware of the common MCP servers. Few of them are GitHub, Playwright, Vercel, Supabase for databases, Notion, and one of the famous ones, which is Context 7, which basically provides documentation of different packages, Python SDKs to your LLM, right? Um, so what are the challenges that we have with MCP servers today? So one challenge is that we need to manage the MCP configs across multiple clients. So if we attach the same MCP server today in Claude, VS Code, or ChatGPT, we kind of have to do the auth and the customizations in each of these clients, right? So there's authentication complexity, as I said, like we'll have to authenticate every client whenever we add to each of them. And also there is lack of customization. Like today, an enterprise or an application just releases an MCP server. We have to use the tools, resources, and prompts that they provide to us. There's no easy way of building on top of these MCP servers and having your own customization layer or composition layer, right? So there's no easy way of combining two MCPs, building workflows around it, building AI workflows around it. There's no easy way today to do that. And that's the first kind of point we took at solving this problem in the tooling layer, right, for the LLMs. So here we introduce the concept of VMCPs, which is basically virtual MCPs. And what we hope that VMCP becomes is kind of a specification that builds on top of MCP standard and extends it, and also a platform where people can create and deploy multiple VMCPs. And as you will see that we have an SDK, which is kind of an abstraction layer of the today's MCP SDK, right? Um, so this is roughly how the VMCP architecture looks, where if you go to the platform, which I will demo later, you can create a virtual MCP server. You can connect multiple MCP servers inside a VMCP, and you have the option to do tool curation or override tool definitions, so that you explain the rationale of the tool in a much better way to the LLM to get more predictable outputs, right? On top of this, you can also create custom tools, prompts, and resources. We have a certain syntax and an editor that you can use, where inside the prompt you can reference another tool call, so that you can combine easily. A person can in no code way combine multiple tools inside a prompt and use that in whichever client you want, right? And a feature that we would be releasing this week, but I'll try and demo it today too, is a sandbox execution environment. So I'll expand on this later of why this is required. So every VMCP you can also attach a safe code execution environment, a sandbox environment, which will run a custom created tool safely in only that environment, so that it doesn't harm any other directories of your local system, right? So in this way, you can create multiple virtual MCPs which cater to different use cases, which may automate different workflows, and you can easily maintain them using this nice UI that we have, right? And on top of the MCPs, so this kind of gives you extra benefits, like you just need to do the auth once for a particular MCP server, and then when you attach it to the next VMCP, it's automatically connected, right? So the discovery is kind of partly solved, and we have, as of today, a very basic analytics dashboard where you can see what tool calls you made, which VMCPs were active at that point of time, and how many tools were actually exposed, right? Um, yeah, so as I mentioned in key features, we have customizable tools, prompts. Just on the tools part, so we have taken the pain to kind of also integrate, you can convert an API basically into a Python tool, because that's not the best way to maybe write an MCP server, but it's a quick kind of way to just get started. If you already have an API ready, you could convert them into tools, Python tools, and get your VMCP server started, right? So VMCP, though you can just use it as even a prompt management MCP, where all your prompts required for all your workflows, you can kind of compartmentalize them, create a VMCP and take it to any client possible, right? So you just have to connect it once and all your work is basically available to you. Yeah, so maybe it's a good time I just walk you through the basic demo of a VMCP. So this is the open source project that we've just released, right? So you can install it via UVX. I'll just I'm on a different branch, so I'll run it separately. But you can, all of you are free to try and even contribute basically to this project. So you can install it via UVX command. Let me just start of this. So when the server starts, we kind of load some pre-configured MCP servers and also a demo VMCP, which you see as 1xn demo here. So this is the entire interface. So VMCP is your main tab where you can create a new VMCP. You can basically edit. I'll come to this. Then you have the connections tab, which shows which all MCP servers you have connected across the VMCPs. And if you want to do the auth or connect to the MCP server, refresh the connection, you can do it in this tab, right? Then you have the stats tab, which is just the basic dashboard for now, which shows your tool call usage across clients. And then there's a discover tab. I think this is more relevant in the hosted solution. So you all can also check out the hosted solution at 1xn.ai. So here, I think what Aditya had referred to. So here there are multiple users, and we are basically hosting this entire framework on our servers. So stderr support has not yet come for the hosted solution, but the open source project supports stderr connection as well, right? So you can log in with your Google credentials, and basically the same dashboard is available to you. But this has an extra functionality of sharing and making your VMCPs public. So if you have a certain workflow that you want to share with the community, you can easily do it, and basically other people can discover it, right? So going back to the open source solution and the demo, so this is the basic playground where you edit your VMCP. So it starts off with which all VMCP servers are connected. So if connection is auth is required for one of the servers, you just click on it and authorize it, and it will take you through the authorization workflow for that server. You just need to come and refresh it. So this is connected with like 8 tools, 3 prompts, and 10 resources. If you go to the prompts tab, so now once the server is connected, you can attach it to any VMCP server and you don't have to again do the auth. If you look at the prompts tab, so you have a separate tab called VMCP prompts, which are the custom prompts that one can create. So there are some simple examples that you can go through. I'll just run you through one. So here, as you see in this syntax, so this is a custom prompt that we have created, and in the editor you can refer to any other prompt with the parameters that it requires, and also the actual text that you want to attach to it, right? So in this way, this is just the syntax that we support to basically refer to any prompt, tool, or resource that is available to you via the other MCP servers. Then you have the tools. In tools, we have few options. So you can see in the drop down that we support prompt tools, which are basically just text that you write, but the text can refer to the prompts, tools, resources as I just showed. Then you have an HTTP tool, which where you can basically attach an API and it gets converted to a Python tool. You also have the option of writing a Python function code. So you can keep extending the already available MCP servers out there. And last, you can import an entire Postman collection and just convert it into convert all the APIs into tools, and they would be available in the VMCP, right? Uh, Also, like as just a testing ground, I think there's MCP inspector that Anthropic has like released as an open source project where you can try out all tools, you can attach the MCP servers, but you can do it right here in our interface. You can see that all these tools are listed. So if I check the all feature tool and say add numbers, you can test it right here and see the output of the tool, right? So whenever you create a tool, you can test the tool right in this interface. Also, as I mentioned, there is a tool override option. So if you feel that if the MCP server that has been released by the enterprise, it doesn't have detailed description about what the tool is. If the LLM is not performing that well, you could well go and rename the tool. You could override the description and basically save that override, so that when you attach the VMCP, the LLM has much better context as to what to do, right? So coming back, yeah. So I'll just come back and explain what the Sandbox does. So just resume with the slides. Yeah, so I think on top of this, like other than managing the MCP servers, I think one pressing problem that MCP had is that it loads all the tool definitions, descriptions right up front. So whenever you attach an MCP server, any client, say Claude, they load the entire tool definition list right up front before the chat, right? So this kind of obviously leads to a lot of token usage for subsequent tool calls that you make. And also in the tool call, because you'll need to pass the tool result back. So if there is any tool which outputs a huge number of rows or a huge CSV, then that's an issue, because in every subsequent tool call that you make, that entire result is going into the context, right? So Anthropic themselves had come up with a blog of like how they have worked around this solution, which kind of involved doing programmatic tool calling. So what is programmatic tool calling is that you power the MCP with a sandbox environment, with a code execution environment, where you generate scripts which can make the tool calls intelligently, so that you can combine 2 or 3 tools, and maybe the discovery is just done once, but all subsequent tool calls, they can call the script directly and run the tool, because LLMs are great at generating code. So there may be a couple of iterations, but you can create another script which combines multiple tool calls, and you can get the same result with a lot less token usage, right? And also I think it increases the predictability, because you shift the problem to a space in which the LLM is good at it, right? Um, they had just given kind of the guidelines in the blog. They don't have they've not kind of open source the implementation or how they have gone about. So there are a couple of ways one can do it, but as first steps, I think for us it was important that we give the ability of attaching a sandbox environment to a VMCP to our users, so that even if you start off with an empty VMCP, potentially you can start creating tools using any of the clients by just attaching it. And you have Python scripts that you can readily use as tools or workflows as per your use case, right? So this is the very basic sandboxing solution that we have currently. It's built on top of the Sandbox runtime that Anthropic themselves have referred to. So it mainly uses like the native backend. So for macOS, it leverages seatbelt profiles. So these profiles are nothing but file system restrictions, that you can just access the particular file system, and also you can specify network restrictions, which URLs do you want to whitelist, so on and so forth, right? So we create a seatbelt profile and a sandbox environment ready to use with a VMCP. And in Linux underlying, it uses bubblewrap, which kind of does this similar thing, just that it has the additional functionality of mounting a volume. So if a PWD or an LS is done inside the sandbox environment, this would show up as home or whatever you mentioned, right? Um, just to gloss over the other 2 options, we don't support them yet, but most of the vendors today of sandboxing solution, they are either container based, a few of them, which leverage Docker or Podman, and many of them are based on microVMs. Basically, at the kernel level, you have a segregation at the kernel level. But for VMCP, for our open source project locally hosted, we are currently supporting the native backend, right? So for this, we are exposing only one tool, which is the execute bash tool. Um, and what you receive, like the VMCP executes it in the sandbox, and the output is relayed back as 2 keys in the JSON, the stdout logs and the stderr logs, right? So just to demo on the VMCP, demo VMCP. Yeah, so in the sandbox, you can go and enable the sandbox here. So what this does is it creates a directory in the .vmcp folder, and also installs some basic Python libraries along with the VMCP SDK, right? Because if the LLM needs to call tools via Python script, we need to provide a thin SDK layer on top of this. So we have a VMCP CLI too, but for now that is disabled. We are still testing it out. But we install the VMCP SDK along with your normal Python libraries like pandas, so on and so forth, right? So you can see all the files that are getting created here. And in the prompts, you will see that if you have enabled Sandbox, um, you will so there is a Sandbox setup prompt, right? Now you can treat it, actually this is just our version of what the setup should be, but you could practically write your own setup prompt on how the host or the like Claude or ChatGPT, how they should kind of use the VMCP SDK. You can very well go and edit it here and write your own setup prompt, right? So in this setup prompt, we just provide examples of how to install new packages. So if it's writing a script and if it needs to install a new package, how to do it. Also how to list the tools. So I'll try and show a dynamic tool creation where the LLM creates a new tool, and then again you can do a list tools and it kind of shows up, right? So this is the setup prompt. Yeah. So here we have the VMCP URL. So the VMCP is nothing but an MCP at the end. So you attach it just like an MCP. So you copy this URL. Just for the demo, I'll use Claude Web. So I'll start ngrok and attach it. Go and add a custom connector. So you can see all the tools have got listed. Yeah, so we'll just start the chat. You can see a 1xn demo has come up with the execute bash tool, right, that you can see here. Also in the prompts, you will see the setup prompt that has come with the Sandbox. Just another feature that I want to mention here is now if you see the tools list, you have your normal MCP tools plus the Sandbox tool, which is the execute bash tool. But because in the VMCP SDK you have already uh, told the LLM of how to discover the tools, so the whole point was to not to upload the tools upfront. So you can enable something called progressive discovery, which will basically hide or not load the MCP tools in your LLM client, right? So if we do this and so this is before the refresh. If you see the tools, you have all these tools, all feature add, then everything remote server, right? And there are some custom tools. So when you enable progressive discovery, all the core MCP tools would get hidden, but the custom tools would still be shown to the LLM. So if I do a refresh now, so you can see all the core MCP tools have got hidden, the all feature and the everything server, and only the custom tools, and you have your execute bash tool. Right? So I can go ahead and now Claude. If you're building your own agents, this would be much easier because you can use the setup prompt as the system prompt, and it would nicely follow how to execute bash commands in your Sandbox environment. But with Claude, it's a bit tricky because it also is powered by Claude Code, so it can itself also execute bash command in its own environment, right? So we need to do some priming, and for that reason you may see the prompt to be as large as it is, but if you're building your own agents, it could be much lesser. So I'll just set up the prompt. Yeah. Okay, and I'll just run the prompt. Yeah, so it's by itself trying to explore what is there in the Sandbox environment. So it first just does a PWD. So the way the dynamic tools are created, yeah. So we create a folder called VMCP tools where after the LLM has kind of iterated on the tool or the script that we require, it basically copies the final artifact into the VMCP tools folder. and that in our runtime gets discovered as a new tool, right? So let's just,
But that will be persistent, right? For example, if that is being added
yeah,
by LLM in the runtime, then if I use that same VMCP for another query or another agent, that would be available.
yes, that would be available. Okay, so you can see here that it is writing its own Python script to now explore tools because it doesn't know which tools are there. So this is kind of the progressive discovery that it is doing. It's writing its own Python script on the fly. Okay, and this all has been primed in the prompt of how to run a Python script. So it basically wrote the Python script. You can refresh the sandbox. Yeah, so it's written this Python script. You can see in the sandbox the script that it's written, and yeah, and if I just allow it to run, okay, so it basically finds out that there are 13 tools uh, uh, available. So you can see here that it kind of gets the information about all the tools, right, in this tool list. So if I tell it to create a dynamic tool, we'll just try to demo the dynamic tool creation. So you can see that it creates it in the VMCP tools folder because it has been primed to do so. Yeah. So you can see that it's done an import VMCP SDK, and for the tool calls that it's using, it's basically doing a VMCP SDK dot get weather, right? So these are all the information that we've provided of how to use the VMCP SDK, but it has explored the tools on the fly, and it's kind of writing the script to use all the tools. So it also writes a test script, which after it creates a dynamic tool, it will automatically try and test this tool that it's created. And we can, yeah, you can see here in under VMCP tools, you have a tool called weather categorizer, right? And also if you go in your VMCP tool list, you will have something called a sandbox tool weather categorizer. Just try and execute it. So I think in the meantime, like it's running, like feel free to explore our open source project, and also looking forward for more contributors on this project. It's just the start. I think we plan to build all what is required for creating the tooling layer for context engineering. Again, that's the big picture. We also have a hosted version. As I showed, you can go to oneextend.ai and give it a shot. Okay. And yeah, maybe it will run. Yeah. Thanks for.